Bill O'Reilly's words often require translation, so culture warrior turns into smut peddler just as fast as you can say, great video. And in our #1 story on the countdown, was it a negligee situation? It isn't just Bill O showing softcore porn while railing against softcore porn. It's the entire fixed news establishment. The latest recorded example, 4:24 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today. And filmmaker Robert Greenwald, who will join us presently, has documented a telling slice of it in his 4-minute video production. Family values, as seen in the Alice Through the Looking Glass kaleidoscope that is Fox News. Like this Bill O classic, oh, not negligee situations, but O'Reilly being shocked, just shocked, by the Carl's Jr. Burger commercial featuring Paris Hilton, beginning with, quote, "Tonight, one of the most offensive TV advertisements we have ever seen," which he then showed nonstop. Likewise, less than 2 weeks ago in his Culture War segment, O'Reilly complained about the exotic erotic ball in San Francisco while showing video from the exotic erotic ball for about half of a 5-minute segment and getting the grisly details from a journalist who had attended. Quoting Billow, "We are simply reporting on the atmosphere in San Francisco since the secular progressives took over." And this pattern is the virtual upholstery of fixed noise. Like today, Cavuto discussing bars that lure preteens, saucy video and still pictures included. And perhaps one of the most egregious examples highlighted in Mr. Greenwald's production, Fox News covering a serial killer in Daytona, Florida last March.
A serial killer is on the loose in the Daytona area.
As you know, the first victim was actually killed about 3 months ago. But what's really important in this case, and I think the captain on the line will agree with me, is that the suspect has used a handgun, from what I understand, and has shot the victims.
A lot of kids heading down there for spring break this time of year. What would you tell them by way of caution as they head into this area?
Well, the most important thing right now is for everyone, not only the kids that's down there on spring break, but even people living in that community. Because the thing about this case, Martha, is the fact that who's ever committing these crimes, it seems to me, is very familiar with the layout of that general area down there. And so they're very familiar with the area, so they know the getaway routes. So right now, all the people in that area, whether they're college students or not, need to be very, very vigilant.
The layout, you say. Joining me now, as promised, the man who brought us Outfoxed, filmmaker Robert Greenwald. Thanks again for your time tonight, sir.
Pleasure.
So you noticed a bit of a trend on Fox News, did you?
Well, that's putting it mildly. Actually, it's interesting because we noticed as the ratings continue to go down, the smut continues to go up. There seems to be a direct correlation.
Your piece begins with O'Reilly taking an email from a viewer complaining about his use of graphic video, but the ombudsman there concludes, "I think the important point is that you never use this video gratuitously." And of course, O'Reilly seemingly enjoys giving warnings about the video he's about to show. That doesn't solve this problem, doesn't answer your criticism?
Well, you know, the hypocrisy from Bill O'Reilly and the others there is actually part of a consistent pattern. I mean, think about it. Murdoch goes out and says Fox News is going to be green, and then Hannity and the rest of them say global warming doesn't exist. Roger Ailes goes out and says we're going to do a debate for the Black Congressional Institute, and then we see all the cases of racism. So it's part of what they do. They say one thing, and then, of course, they do the other. And Bill being the leading hypocrite, it makes perfect sense. But they're in a little bit of trouble here because the advertisers absolutely hate this. I mean, they may disagree politically, but the advertisers really don't want to be paying for smut. And so we're launching a campaign now encouraging people to contact the advertisers and asking them to pull the ads.
As I pointed out, they did this on the Neil Cavuto show 4 hours and 30 minutes ago, and who knows, nobody watched since then. What is the provenance of this process? Do you know? I mean, who started this? Because years ago, and I'll leave the names out of this, but we had an executive here on this show who'd been hired away from Fox News, and he had devised a segment with a female correspondent. And one night we did this, and she was doing what she would do, reading a script as video of a news story play, just an ordinary news story, and this guy went crazy. He screamed at everybody, "Stand her up in front of the screen, make sure she's always on camera. She's there to be eye candy." Needless to say, we got rid of the guy as fast as we could. We basically professionally cut him up and smuggled him out under our robes. But was this whole thing, is this an Ailes invention? Complain about this video as a rationalization to show the video? Or was there some original umbrage in here? Or where did it come from?
Well, it seems consistent. You know, I don't sit in the news meetings at Fox, although I've asked to be included. Somehow they haven't included me. But it certainly seems to be the pattern with Ailes, who has taken every possible element of news and degraded it, degenerated, and turned it into, in this case, smut. And if it's not smut, we see the right-wing propaganda. So I think it's certainly something we can attribute to the way he deals with what really should be a very important function in a democratic society, which is the decimation of news.
All right, let's cut our use of that video now before we start to imitate them. But you make a serious point in here that it's not just, oh, you're showing all these TNA, but you're also not covering the war in Iraq or other important stories as a result.
Yes, well, we see, you know, the studies have been done showing how little they cover some of the serious and important news stories because so much time. I mean, they're showing Girls Gone Wild in prime time. I guarantee you the advertisers don't know that. But, of course, with Fox, it's a real question. You know, are we better off? Because we don't want them covering the news the way they cover it.
Yeah, they see. I mean, the porn that they cover is fair and balanced. We can give them that. We'll just leave them the porn news. We'll stay out of the porn news if they want to do that full time. The documentary filmmaker Robert Greenwald, as always, great. Thanks for joining us, sir.
My pleasure.
That's Countdown for this. The one.